continue talking about this. So for more on the investigation, let me bring in former acting U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Chad Wolf and former CIA officer and FBI Special Agent Tracy Walder. Thank you so much for both of you for coming on. I wish the circumstances were better. Tracy, I'll start with you. Potential suspect, Rahmanullah Lakanwal, 29 years old, Afghan national. There is reporting that he was in this country illegally on an expired visa through Operation Allies Welcome. We're still trying to get official confirmation on that. But if this is true, and we're talking about an Afghan national here, first thing I have to ask, Tracy, is the FBI now looking to see if there's some sort of connection to al-Qaeda or a terrorist network?
Well, thank you for having me, Jesse. Yes, they have to. I mean, that would be issue number one, right, is to determine motive, obviously, after they've secured the crime scene and made sure that there's no more threat to the public. That would be the first thing that they're trying to do. I think what's also most important is if this is connected to terrorism, whether it's al-Qaeda, ISIS in some way, shape, or form, are there other individuals attempting attacks like this? Is he in contact with other individuals? How was it missed that he overstayed his visa? Those are all questions that are going to be important, but I think motive first is what's going to be very important for the FBI to determine. And if they determine that it is terrorism, they are going to have to really look through his socials. Who are his connections? Who is he talking to primarily here in the United States to make sure that there are no other threats?
And I'm glad you mentioned what might be happening behind the scenes if the reporting is true and he's not cooperating, which maybe is not surprising. Chad, I want to go to you. Obviously, this is a targeted attack, right? I mean, you're talking the time, the place, the eve of Thanksgiving, not coincidental, it doesn't seem. But when we're talking about this and we're trying to say, do we classify this as terrorism, based on what the reporting indicates right now, what is your take on whether or not this is an act of terrorism?
Well, it certainly feels that way. I don't know that we can affirmatively say that now until the investigation continues to unfold and we get to his motive and trying to understand that. But let me just go back to how this individual came into the country. Came in 2021 under Operation Welcome Allies, as you indicated. We know that they brought in almost about 100,000 individuals under that program, Afghan nationals. Many of them were not properly vetted. We have Inspector General reports. We have an individual last year that was arrested planning an election day terror plot that was an Afghan national part of this program. So I think there needs to be a broader look at all the individuals that came in under that program. Those humanitarian visas have now expired. They're here illegally. They have overstayed a visa. And you now have ICE and other law enforcement looking for these types of individuals while at the same time being targeted by individuals. It's not just obviously these National Guardsmen, but ICE and CBP officials are being targeted in cities across the country as well. So all of this starts to come together as we paint this picture of trying to dig out from what the Biden administration did in bringing individuals into this country that were not properly vetted.
See, Chad, you kind of laid it up for me because we are talking about the investigation right now, and as details are coming in, the politics of this, as this is now getting a bit clearer as to what may have happened and who the suspect is. In the next part of the show, I am going to focus on the politics of it. I have two congressmen coming on to talk about this because you know that it's going to be used by both sides. Tracy, I got to go back to you on this because, again, I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I was talking about with Hannah. Middle of the day, okay, handgun, approaching two armed National Guard members. This is an area of high visibility, crowded, right? I mean, what does that tell you, those aspects of this case? Because I think about it and I said, how is this possible? How did this happen?
Well, I just want to go back, if that's okay, actually to September of this year. The National Counterterrorism Threat Center actually issued a 5-page threat warning, essentially to law enforcement personnel by al-Qaeda and ISIS in the United States. So that's actually, if this is terrorism, that would be interesting to note that correlation. In something like this, that's how I knew right away that this was unfortunately a targeted attack. This is, as you mentioned, a very busy area. Obviously, I've lived in Washington, D.C. It's full of tourists. And as Kelly mentioned prior, she was there simply to get lunch. This was right around lunchtime on the East Coast. Him walking up to these individuals tells me these were his targets. He was not looking at some kind of a large scale attack against, the population as a whole. That's what that told me immediately, especially because he aimed for the head instead of the center mass. He was trying to inflict the maximum amount of damage on these individuals, which is obviously incredibly unfortunate. Also, if this was done with a handgun, that is very easy to conceal. I suspect that that's what he had done until the moment that he walked up to these individuals.
Chad, with the president now suggesting that they want to order 500 more troops to D.C., on one hand, you could say, understandable. Look at this act of violence. We're not going to be deterred. We need more of these armed forces on the ground here. I think it, maybe demonstrates the level of violence in D.C. The other hand is they would say, you're putting more men and women from the National Guard at risk, in harm's way. What's your take on the effect of having potentially 500 more National Guard members on the ground in D.C.?
Yeah, what I would say is it's really important that we don't let an incident like this back us down and get to your second point to say, well, we're going to put more people in harm's way, so we don't want to do that. We let the terrorists, we let the bad guys win when we do that. I think surging additional personnel is the right move, right? As the investigation unfolds, you don't know if there are more planned attacks for tomorrow, over the long holiday weekend, and elsewhere. So until they get more information and they can rule that out, I think surging more individuals, more personnel into D.C. is probably the right move at this time.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.